I'm Mitch Henck. For the last several months, we've seen protests illustrating the tension between people of color and young people of color against white police. We see the outrage on certain incidents that have happened around the country. Tragically, it came to a head in Madison with the Tony Robinson shooting. On my radio show this week, I talked to Nick Henck, who's a former New York City cop from 65 to 72 during a time of racial riots, political protests, and a lot of tension in the city. He told me a couple of stories. He said he was a neighborhood cop. He would establish trust in the neighborhood with kids. And when they'd send a special unit in for an event or an episode that was dangerous, it would take him a month to recover that trust. He said one day he was walking down the street with a woman in a stroller, and there was a gang in front of him, about 6 guys, forming a wall. They wouldn't move, trying to play with the cop. And Nick said, "You got to move a little bit out of the way so we can pass." They didn't move. He said, "Look, if you don't move, I'm going to call for backup, and then we're going to arrest you, and that's not going to be good." So he walked up and gently tapped a couple of guys on the back. They moved, and they let the stroller and the woman through. Nick said 2 weeks later, some of the same kids said to him, "Hey, how do you become a cop someday? I'm thinking about becoming a cop. How do I do that?" So the conversation grew. He said trust was established. I talked to Chief Koval. He said he was upset about the schools. The driver's ed programs had been gutted. Well, Nick, the former New York cop, said, "Why don't we have a deal where Madison police teach driver's ed to kids in high-risk neighborhoods, establish bonding between those young people and police, bringing in the trust." Neighborhood policing works. Remember Michael Hansen, who ran for sheriff a few years ago, and Dade County was a Madison cop. I saw him as a neighborhood cop on the far west side of the Park Edge by Over Park, playing ball in the street with little kids, and they were laughing. Nick even said when he visited Israel, to illustrate this, he would go through checkpoints between Israel and Gaza, and there would be Israeli checkpoints, and then he would finally get to one at the end, which was Israeli-Palestinian, and then finally just a Palestinian checkpoint. He said by the time he got to the Israeli-Palestinian checkpoint, they were joking and laughing at each other and saying, "You sure you want to let this person in your country?" He said people started talking. When people talk, tensions go down. So instead of having a war and knocking heads all the time at each other, we should talk to each other. Just the thought for the day, my 2 minutes, my 2 cents, brought to you by Capital Consultants and Edge Construction. Mike Tuig and his staff can redo your kitchen, your bathroom, your basement, make your home feel just like home. See you next time.